most influential of our readers, competing media users, tourist information centres, tourists visiting, locals in the area. Basically, we unveiled a huge relaunch just before Christmas, and this is the all-new site. Trust me, the Open wasn't nearly as pretty, but I think this is pretty.
I do work for the news division. I'm transitioning from my job as production development manager into a new role for the organisation as a whole called Innovation Lead. And in that role, I'm hoping to try and bridge that wonderful gap between consumer technology and broadcast technology, because it's a very big line right now. This project is not really new, to be perfectly honest with you. Back in very late 2007, early 2008, we were actually toying with the Nokia N93 to see what it might bring to journalism in the field. At the same time, Nokia formed a partnership with Thomson Reuters, and they set up a website called Reuters Mojo, and they published an awful lot of what they were doing. So in many ways, I'm kind of following in their footsteps. Can I just ask, how many people in the room are iPhone users? Can you show me your hands? Okay, and then the obvious alternative, how many Android users in the crowd? You're all going to hate me in the next half an hour. Okay, we've worked on this for the last year and a half. We decided on the iPhone, we'll go into it in a little bit of detail, we did try Android in anger, to be perfectly honest. In fact, I carried an Android and an iPhone for 2 years, so you can't say that I'm completely unpartial, if you like, to Android. But anyway, our vision of the future of the mobile journalist as we go forward is pretty much set in stone. We do know that Google Glass may impact in this sphere. We're really, really keen to try and get our hands on it and see how it's going to work, because I think it could be the next revolution, but we can't deal with the future, let's deal with today for the time being. So, why not Android? Let's just get it off the table in the first place. The first issue that we had was there's an awful lot of Android handsets out there. In fact, there's really over 160 handsets listed on the Android.com website. Each one has a different sensor, has a different chip, has a different camera, and in many cases has a customized version of the operating system depending on the manufacturer. Each phone is more than likely a different shape. So first of all, there's a logistical issue. How do you create accessories that can be used to enhance the phone when there's such a huge variety? Now, some manufacturers have decided to go for the critical mass that is the Samsung Galaxy S3, so you will see more and more devices coming to the market that will be compatible with Android, so all is not lost. However, I tweet quite a bit, as hopefully Sue will attest. She taught me very well. And I often invite people who are Android users to tweet back to me with a workflow that allows them to shoot video on their iPhone, or sorry, shoot video on Android, and move it onto an Android tablet to edit. And the reason I ask for that is that that's the workflow that we've actually developed within RT in Ireland for iOS, where you can shoot on your iPhone. You can edit on the iPhone if you want, or you can dump it onto an iPad and edit it, and then FTP it from the actual iPad. And the reason we're doing that is, I've been kind of moving around Europe to a number of different TV stations for the last 12 months and dealing with the news teams on how they gather news using their mobiles. Time and time again, what I see is journalists who will habitually take the phone out of their pocket, it'll be handheld, they'll use the native microphone, they'll shoot 15, 20 or 30 seconds of a video clip, and then they will post it basically to their website. And then they've drawn a line in the sand to say, that's my mobile activity out of the way, now I can concentrate on when the big camera arrives with the cameraman or when the SAT truck arrives. What I'm going to try and prove to you today is that the reality is that's not really the way you need to go. There's one other key reason. Android, in the last year, has been the target of the majority of the malicious apps published on the App Store. Don't blame me for this statistic, blame Kaspersky Labs, but it just means that iOS in its closed environment is in fact also more secure. Anyway, moving on. So this is the family that we're going to work with. Obviously we're now on the iPhone 5, 1080p HD camera, and if you have an iPad mini or an iPad 3, then you also have an incredibly powerful device in your pocket. If you put the two of them together, and if you learn how to play to the strengths of that little small camera, you can achieve pretty amazing results. Far better than the majority of the content that I see in most websites with the hashtag mobile, because most of it is handheld. And I'm going to try and show you today that actually if you use some of the principles of photography that I've been teaching VJs for the last 10 years, you can achieve phenomenally better results just simply by keeping the phone steady and then augmenting the microphone. So with that in mind, why do we want to do it? Well, because the audience is doing it, and they're doing it in their droves. That statistic is probably out of date. That one's pretty up to date, but nonetheless, the numbers Well, they scare the shit out of me, to be perfectly honest, and they do with most of the other senior managers in RT, because this is a market that we really have no control over, and all the advertising is going in this direction because they can profile the audience. So what we want to be able to do is provide verified, quality content and just simply use the mobile as a device, as a camera. That's really it. On the photography side, some of you might be familiar with Instagram. Instagram is also one of the success stories. 40 million images per day, 100 million active monthly users, and I love this one, 8,500 likes per second. That's a lot of good photography, one would argue. If you look at the date stamp on this, you'll see this was actually published on March 31st. This image was taken with Instagram by a professional photographer. It caused uproar the day it was published. Let's give credit to the photographer, Nick Laham. He is a professional photographer, and he sold the rights to this to Getty, so you can now buy these images under license. But the reaction was, and it kind of says it all for me, you know. The reality is that there's an awful lot of traditional photographers who have extremely expensive DSLRs, and they are passing square bricks as a result of what's happening with the iPhone, okay? What they really should be doing is learning how to shoot video with their DSLR, because the video that DSLRs can produce is phenomenal, and there's a whole other revolution that we could talk about, but I only have 30 minutes and I've wasted 10 already. So, the other thing you need to be mindful of is outside of news, the iPhone has actually gained a substantive traction within the indie filmmaking business. There are now dedicated iPhone film festivals springing up all over the globe. The biggest one is probably the iPhone Film Festival that runs at the back of Macworld. And I'm going to show you one of the ones that won at Macworld just a couple of weeks back. Brace yourselves. Would it be fair to say it's just a little bit better than most of the mobile video you're used to seeing on websites? If you're interested, I'll tweet at the end of the session the names of the people that I am citing here. That guy is Conrad Mess, and if you know Peter Jackson, he kind of launched his movie career with a film called Bad Taste, where he got a load of mates together and shot it basically with gore from a butcher friend and an 8mm camera. That's where his career started. Conrad Mess started with an iPhone in Spain. He did 4 short films, and he's now in Hollywood being quoted as the next Tarantino. We'll see. During the week, this came out on Twitter, Rideshare, the first full feature-length film. So it's not just small sound bites and snippets of 10 or 15 seconds that it can be produced. Mixed feeling on it. I haven't watched the entire movie, so I'm not going to stand over it, and I'm not going to make you sit through the trailer either. Again, time constraints more than anything else. But what we will do is talk about what we're doing in the quality space. So if anyone has heard of Zacuto, they make accessories for both the iPhone and the digital SLR market. And in the last 3 years, every year they've sponsored this documentary called The Great Camera Shootout. Last year they did The Revenge of the Great Camera Shootout. Now, you need to be aware of the premise of this. Basically what they did is they compared 9 fairly serious, well, 8 serious cameras and an iPhone. How's that? Starting with the Arri Alexa up around the sort of €75,000 mark, and then gradually scaling our way all the way down to the poor humble iPhone in the far corner. However, what they did is very interesting. They went onto a Hollywood backlot, they set up a drama scene, and then they found directors of photography who specialized with shooting on each one of these respective cameras. They brought them on set and they said, you can do whatever you like with the lights, we want exactly the same shots, you can grade it in post-production, and then we're going to take your footage and we're going to put it on a screen with the other 8 cameras' footage, and we're going to give people a scoring card. And we're going to ask them to rate the pictures that they see in front of them 1 to 9. So everyone here would assume, well, the iPhone obviously was the most crap one. In fact, it wasn't.
That I like because there was a little fancier.
Scenes aussi very smooth. Transitions of skin tones, tonality. Un seul qui est 3 critères remplissés.
surprised you said D was your last, because D was definitely my first.
I mean, my favorite was E, I mean, in part because it's so hard to be done.
Ik vond vooral de skin tones van A en H onder de twee in de toeshoot van
I think IBNF were like the ones that stood out for me.
But with F, the colors really pop.
E, from a drama point of view.
C,
H.
The iPhone is really in there. Then I would have to assume it's the I, the worst. Sorry. I don't know if that's helpful, but.
Okay. If you're interested, again, I'll tweet the links to this. It's 3 documentaries all in a half-hour slot, so it actually watches like a full feature-length film. For me, the high point of the entire thing is where a Hollywood director gets up at the back of the cinema and proceeds to berate the producers for what they are effectively doing to the industry. The point for me was, these are the most preeminent directors of photography and directors in the world. They're in a controlled environment, they're watching content just in abstract, and several of them said D, and that was the iPhone. Okay, so out of the range of cameras that I showed you a second ago, the iPhone actually rated 3rd worst. But in fairness, it's also by far the cheapest camera in the actual selection. So the quality argument, I'm afraid, if you think that's what the directors think, what does Joe Public think? They simply don't care. If you use it well, if the pictures are engaging, they don't care what camera you're using. Here's something you need to be mindful of. At the Mobile World Congress, which is not that long ago, 2 sensor processors, Aptina and OmniVision, who already make one of the chips in the iPhone, announced that they soon would start shipping a 4K imaging processor for mobile devices. Okay? If you don't know what I'm talking about, let's just give you a little graphic to explain it. That is the current high-definition picture on an iPhone. It's 1080p. It's exactly the same as your widescreen television at home. That is the amount of resolution that the new sensors will be able to record. 4 times the resolution of 1080p. These are likely to be in mobile phones in the next 12 months. In fact, that's a wager that I already have a few bob on. I don't think we're going to see workflows where we're all shooting insanely high-quality video, but what we will be doing is we'll be leveraging the power of this processor to allow us to zoom with the camera phone without any picture degradation. And that's important. It's important because that is one of the key weaknesses with the mobile devices as they stand right now. This is a 12-month time frame, so maybe this time next year we'll be back for the follow-up chat. I'm going to show you 1 or 2 sample packages that we've done in RTE. Again, I'm conscious of the time I have. This one, unfortunately, folks, is in the Irish language, but I did go to the trouble of putting subtitles on it. In some ways, that might be advantageous, because it means you might just focus on the pictures.
Hasega moordun you say not to go insa agus hasega Dakar and over yet because can't not to be participant unwary can I stay in the any motion han this solution agus order having a practice staff going can lower as I said all right but you look at the different functions staff and some lenses the Cadibra new payroll day so newsrw if they really not going to show.
After rating the 5 minutes for Garlish na Hallin Tori, talk taking the mots of Dangan, and not yet the other shaft, let have the gowl or a suit be bolted station or the wood. The Oshbell publify new one on the next Vehedo ele, no the noon arbonerig. On arch of full of shake, I just Taraka Sposan.
Session and Blackish for channels per day.
But Deirdre McKenna, Erwin at the William Alley Tori at Tarmon, Tactish. Taporati did of Tosna and Coalition Ira Alley and Irish like a skirt, Jimmy Dean. Fiachen de Merchen HSC sauce and Shanoshbell of her fall, mar on the alley in Pobble.
The Booby or our Booby Dowson to Booby Ella, Tommy the Stool, Booby on Fobble, or Ma, Porter, and Instant Ferket, Martha, Ulf's Boas, and Avis. A Vage at the Hershul Glen, a Garten at Shas Fargach shade, the Snow Jamlake, so Alice and Bala.
Goodisha, Tom Ryan is an HSC and Coalition Swing. I was can't forward, I was can even let her fill and ride in the Hallin Tori go
I'm banging I was covering a lawn Hallin Tori. That's a good of my issue. Father over the tactical to be in the vine. I was smitty around Dadrin. I was combination of good Lena and spawned and the father again. value na fada shouldn't be the fight.
Law is Northern Berkshire and our prominent. If I let it make a fear I went, but some behind I do in the level. Sean McAtee, no, TG Cat, it got behind me.
Would you put it on your website? Would you put it on broadcast television? Well, here's what we did. The guy who shot it is one of our best VJs, and in a little conspiracy of my own, I basically gave him this kit that you see in front of you, and I set him the task of going off to actually shoot a story on the iPhone. I gave him all the accessories you see in front of you, and I asked him to edit it on an iPad, and then I asked him to FTP it into our station, but not to tell anyone how he did it. So it went through the chain, our quality control people passed it, it was broadcast on air, and then he rang the director and said, everything okay with the package? Yeah, you know, the black on air at the end, you know, it's a nice picture, but the bottom line is he dropped the bombshell and said, okay, well, that was all iPhone, so yeah, that's good news, thanks very much, and hung up. And the next day, the Director General got involved in the debate. So it's fair to say it caused a little bit of controversy, but the point of it is I wanted to set the bar as high as we possibly could, so then if any journalist tried to argue with me about the potential of mobile, I could say, look, pick your point along the scale. It can be as simple as your 15-second fire or a car crash, all the way to actually finish content. Now, I'm not saying there's no skill in this. You do need to know how to shoot. You do need to know the right apps to use. And as opposed to spending the remaining 10 minutes telling you all about those, I'm going to tweet a link to a document that has 7 pages of my favorite apps and also all the hardware that I'm going to talk to you about very quickly. I hope that's okay, as opposed to handouts. I don't have time to show you a second one, but again, I will tweet a link to this package at the end of the session. The fundamental thing, folks, in our case is we're basically screwed for money, like most other broadcasters. And we need to come up with innovative ways to keep giving our audience new content, and at the same time we need to try and empower our journalists as storytellers. We are actually liaising with some of our main competitors, some of the main national newspapers in Ireland at the moment. We're actually sharing the information about the research that we've done. It's in none of our interest to have newspapers go to the wall. We want pluralism in the media space in Ireland. I'm sure you want it here as well. So we're sharing everything that we do. I blog about this openly. Every test I do, every app I use, every piece of hardware I review, it's all public. And our competitors are welcome to share that content too. This is why we're interested in it. If you compare the cost of the mobile journalism kit that includes the iPhone, the iPad and some accessories with the cost of one ENG camera kit, now do this math. I'm crap at math, so you can do it yourselves. How many of these people can I put in the field as video content producers versus one extra camera? You do that on a scale of 2 or 3 and suddenly you can basically equip your entire newsroom with mobile production gear for the sake of cannibalizing 1 or 2 old cameras and keeping them alive for an extra 1 or 2 year cycle. For me, it's a no-brainer. Our journalists in the past basically have carried conventional kit with them. So it's always been a PC, it's always been a still camera in some cases. Loads of them loved their flip camera when they were really, really hot. All of them for radio use Zoom H2N or H4Ns. And in some select cases, if we're doing foreign assignments, they will have a BGAN unit with them for connectivity. The iPhone is capable of basically replacing all of those pieces of equipment. One key enabler, I guess, is you need to have 3G or 4G for connectivity. That's the key thing. And there is a big debate running sideline after Boston and the mobile network, which Mark, where is he? Mark Settle from the BBC College of Journalism is down there, and he did a great story-fi on that whole debate the other day, so maybe give Mark a follow as well. Anyway, this is what you can achieve. At the very basic level, email, photos, audio clips. If you're not doing that, you should give the phone back. Next level up, HD video clips, sending it in basically for breaking news so that it can go straight to web. This is where we want to get. We want to be able to do HD videos, to record good quality interviews in the field, put them together as sequences, edited and FTP'd in as a finished story. It doesn't have to replace what the news crew might do later. It might just be a teaser for the story of the day as opposed to the finished product, but it is capable of doing it all. And then the cherry on the pie, to broadcast live over 4G or even 3G. And if you were here at the session in November, then one of Mark's colleagues, Nick Garnett, showed what the BBC did about 4 or 5 months ago, which is very impressive. Just to mix it up a little, as opposed to showing the same clip, I'm going to talk to you about what we're doing. Unfortunately, I don't have any samples because we're still in discussions with the NUJ about how this will actually work in the field, and we don't have a 4G network yet, so you guys are ahead of us on that. However, Sky did this in January, and if you haven't seen it...
Well, like in China, journalists there are taking part in some rare protests over censorship. It makes up the weekly newspaper's New Year message, which is changed by propaganda officials. Now, reporters from other organisations are backing their colleagues, so I think it makes quite a nice mistake. And Mark, is this a rare outbreak of attempts to defend freedom of speech?
It is, Jeremy. It's very rare. It's very unusual. Protests in general in China are not unusual, but usually they are protests against social issues or perhaps environmental issues. But for a group of people, journalists in this case, to come out of their offices, go on strike, and then protest outside their offices. This is them behind me here, the office that is.
Okay, so the actual entire interview is nearly 6 minutes long, so again, we can't really afford to watch it in its entirety. Google it, and the main reason I tell you to do that is that what happened subsequently is actually really quite interesting.
Kerry?
Hello? What happened subsequently is actually quite interesting.
Kerry? Anyway. I've actually just left the BBC as a journalist, and now I'm head of broadcast.
From his talk back into the House PA, which is interesting. I hope she's going to whisper sweet nothings to him. And on that bombshell, the bottom line is what actually happens to the guy from Sky is he gets arrested by the Chinese authorities, bundled into the back of a truck with his cameraman and taken away.
Yeah.
And he live streamed the entire thing on Sky News. The entire thing. He's living in the back of the truck and he's kind of going, well, you know, I don't really know what's going on, but I'm still sitting here and I'm still waiting to find out what's happening. Google it. It is absolutely unbelievable television.
When it comes to court cases.
And it's a test of what's to come. If you're in the broadcast sector, I don't know how many people here are from broadcast versus newspaper versus just web or radio. There's an awful lot of professional solutions out there that will allow you to stream live and give you basically an SDI feed straight into your Vision Mixer. So it's from your phone straight to air. If you're within one of the other industries that doesn't need that level, then we're about to hear from ipadio. And we also have Livestream Bamboozler, Justin TV, and about 30 or 40 others, all of whom will give you an embeddable iframe that you can put on your personal website and allow you to stream live content. This is probably nothing new to an awful lot of you, but it just shows the potential of it. And then 4G is the key enabler. That's the key point. So a tiny bit of the techie while squeezing it in rather quickly. Mark would have mentioned this in November. You need to be aware that if you're shooting handheld, that your camera lens is pointing at your subject. Your microphone, which is down here, remember when you're taking a call, your microphone is down here. So, if I'm pointing my camera at you, my microphone is actually pointing away from the subject because it's designed to hear me on this side of the phone. So, ultimately, if you want to improve the quality, you should look at some audio accessories. And I've tested all of these, and I have most of them with me except for this one, which I can't get my hands on yet. But if anyone wants a little play with them, I'll happily put the gear out in the hall and you can come and have a look and see what you think. I guess the key thing is this yoke has just come on the market in the past couple of weeks. It's from Rode Microphones. It's a lav mic that clips directly into your iPhone, costs about 40 euros, thereabouts, and it could be basically all you need to improve the audio quality in your phone for interviews. If you couple that with some sort of a device to hold your phone, some of them have lens kits involved, like the one that I have here has a lens on it. But you know, for about 20 or 30 euros, the glyph here will hold your phone perfectly steady on top of a tripod. So what I'm basically saying is a cheap solution, a tripod like the one we use in a bag or even just a simple monopod, coupled with some of these extra accessories could be all you need to actually produce quality content. It addresses the audio issue. It keeps the phone steady so that the pictures are substantially more usable. And let me explain, there is a technical reason why iPhone pictures, when you hold them handheld, look so wobbly and jelly-like. It's to do with the CMOS sensor. It's called rolling shutter. If you move the camera in any way, everything basically deliberately wobbles as it's being sampled. If you put it on a tripod, and if you take your hands off it and just let it do its job, the pictures are cracking. That's the bottom line. Equally, if you have a budget, then you can invest in a more advanced kit, and this is pretty much what RTE are now offering to journalists who want to step up to be trained as mobile journalists and who are interested in doing more of the content like what you saw from Sean, which is actually an end-to-end story, not just a short breaking news video clip. There's loads of handheld stabilizers out there. I didn't bring any of those with me because they're a little bit cumbersome, but if you really do need to go handheld, they take a little bit of mastery, but they do dramatically improve the quality of the video if you're moving. And then a very quick note on apps. Like I say, I will give you the download link to the list, but if you're shooting video, I strongly recommend using Filmic Pro over the native camera app, and just to give you a couple of reasons why. In the latest edition of Filmic Pro, it actually does have a digital zoom feature on video. It also has audio level metering on screen, so you can actually see your audio level as opposed to just hope for the best. It'll allow you to lock your focus, lock your exposure, and lock your white balance. But interestingly, it allows you to set your exposure and your white balance separately. So if you're familiar with the native camera app, you know that if you press and hold, it'll pulse and say exposure and focus is locked, but it only does it in that one spot. With this, I can expose and focus on 2 different areas of the screen. So it's more dynamic, it's more professional, and get this, if you're running with some of the latest phones, 4S or 5, you can sample it up to 50 megabits per second. That's nearly twice the quality of the native recording platform with the iOS app. So that's Filmic Pro. On the inverse side, and wow, am I really squeezing the ass of it, Sarah? Have I got about 2 minutes, 3 minutes? Yeah. Okay, so app-wise, obviously there's iMovie. Will work on your iPhone or on your iPad. Vericorder have a product on the market called Vadio. It's free to download, but if you actually want to send your footage anywhere, you have to pay the in-app purchase price of $8.99 to unlock these settings. What can I say about Vericorder other than it's an extremely powerful app? It's also an extremely comprehensive and complicated app, in my humble opinion. But actually, I know several people who swear by it, and if you're willing to stick with it and learn it, then it can be an incredibly powerful tool in the field. But by comparison, what used to be Avid Studio has now become Pinnacle Studio. It went from $4.99 to $11.99 for that purpose. But actually, it's only available for the iPad, but actually everything that you've seen from what I showed you was basically edited with us and this. And if you do any video editing whatsoever, you will know that one of the key things you want to be able to do is to take the audio from one clip and overlay pictures over it, okay? That's a problem with iMovie. It's nigh on impossible to do it in iMovie in-app. It is really, really simple to do it in Pinnacle Studio. It literally is a case of drag the video from the window just down to the audio timeline, and it turns into just an audio clip. It's that simple. So it's really intuitive to use. And when I normally do my mobile journalism courses, which last 5 days, by the way, I would normally have all the class basically editing on this application because it's so easy to use. I can show people how to use this in 10 minutes. And then finally, recent to the market is Touch Edit, which costs $49.99. It's, in my humble opinion, I wrote a rather nasty review of it on my blog because it's counterintuitive. It plays the opposite direction of the way I'd expect it to play. And there's loads of 2, 3, and 4 finger kind of gestures and swipes. I just kind of threw in the towel after half an hour of frustration. Some of you might be determined to learn it because it is actually incredibly powerful. You can export EDLs and stuff into Final Cut and stuff. So pick your mark and your budget, obviously. $4.99 all the way to $49.99. How do you get the content over? Very quickly, camera connection kit, be it Lightning or 30-pin dot connector. Simply use the USB cable from your iPhone, plug it into your iPhone, plug the USB end into the actual camera connection kit in the iPad. It will pop up a screen. It'll show you everything that's in the iPhone. You just tap it to select it and tell it to import, and it does it all for you. Couldn't be simpler. And you can do it with other devices than the iPhone. I've tested it with the GoPro. I've tested it with the Ixus D7000 from Nikon and also the Canon 6D or 60D. And it works with all of them, mainly because they all shoot H.264 MP4 video. Mark, yeah. Vertical video. His personal hatred, my personal hatred. I was going to show you the video clip, but I don't have time. But if you haven't seen it, Google vertical video syndrome. The bottom line is if you shoot that way, that's the video that you're going to get at home. Okay? And it's a disaster. And if you try and stretch it up to fill the screen, it just makes shite of the pictures completely. So, you know, just don't go there. But here's one tip that most people don't seem to pass. Oh, I can't show it to you, so sad. If you are shooting vertical and then you have an epiphany in the middle of your recording, you go, oh, you know what? I'll just turn sideways right now, so I'll keep recording. What you're actually going to get on screen at home is that. So it's worse than what you would have got if you just kept it vertical the whole way, so just avoid it, please. There's a little gyro thing inside in the phone that remembers the orientation of the phone when you start recording. It doesn't update dynamically. So if you think and have your epiphany and turn, stop and start again. The other thing you can do to improve your pictures is sequences. Very quickly, try and mix up the shots. Leave the camera static, let the action happen in the frame. Here's a very quick sample. Start with a wide shot. We're using convergence to try and make the shot interesting. Loose-ish, mid-shot. Get close-ups. Close-ups. The iPhone is fantastic at close-ups. And you can use it for loads of trick shots, you know. He says with loads of wind noise. You can use it for loads of trick shots. So you can actually, you know, put it under a baker's tin and have him pour the actual mixture in on top of it for really weird point-of-view shots. There's a great thing on YouTube where a guy basically just etched a tiny hole in a mirror, stuck his iPhone to the back of it, and then brought the mirror to a zoo in front of animals. And there's these amazing pictures of the animals going. He then brought it to a McDonald's and held it in the window, and he got exactly the same thing. Anyway, bottom line is mix up the shots, because you know what? These are all statics, but at the end of the day, if what's happening in the frame is interesting, it will actually be worthy pictures. And then, even we can't really go into composition quickly, but if you keep the nose roughly in the center of the frame, your interviewee should be roughly framed right. In other words, if their nose is over there and they're looking out of frame, then it's absolutely poxy. that's all the stuff that's in the kit. I think I'm overrunning now altogether in your time. My apologies. Don't have time for questions till the end, I assume.
We'll do one question.
One question. Okay. Well, okay. This is what I'm going to give you. It's basically a download. I'm going to put the little link on it, or I'll tweet it immediately after the session, and you can download it to your phone or to your iPad, and it has all RT's copyright material just for you today. And that's the link, and I'll leave it there for as long as you want. Thank you.
Three things to say at the start. I'm not here to sell you anything, so that gives me free rein to say exactly what I want. I'm entirely operating system agnostic, so and Glenn, I can show you later filming a video on an S3, which I can then edit on a Nexus if you're interested. So, but I love all phones equally. And my company name is pronounced ipadio with a soft A. We happen to have the name iPad in our name some years before the iPad appeared. So please call us ipadio if you would. It makes me cry otherwise. ipadio, because of Internet Protocol Radio, I'm taking you to start with at least, to the other end of the spectrum of connectivity. And what my company specialises in doing is using technology to reach the hard to reach. So those are people, a lot of corporate work we do is reaching lads in vans. So where 2G connectivity or a little bit less with text messaging is the only means of communication. But below that, we also provide quite a unique resource for live streaming telephony from sat phones as well. And I've been working with this business for 2 or 3 years now. It was founded as an idea in my head about 5 years ago, related to sport. We do relatively little in live streaming of sport, but we can. Well, we did do the International Ice Hockey Championships from Hungary this week, but anyway. It's rare that technology moves you. Certainly for an old cynic like me, but one of the fan casts that we had that made us realise we'd done something rather interesting was some years ago now, 3 years ago, and with a bit of luck, I'm just going to play you a little bit of this audio, but if I set the scene, the picture of the fella there is a guy called Louis Bélanger, and he's the international spokesperson for Oxfam. This recording was part of a series which were the very first reports from the scene of the Haitian earthquake. All text gone. It's all wiped out. There is no technology. Satellite phones aren't. He happened to have a sat phone, and this was a recording he did a few days in from a hospital in Port-au-Prince.
Louis Bélanger, spokesperson, so this is more of a personal podcast. I came into the General Hospital in Port-au-Prince to do a quick TV interview, and I just took the occasion to sort of walk around the hospital, and I don't think it's, I don't think I've ever seen this in my life. There's, I mean, hundreds and hundreds of people in sort of full hospital beds with all kinds of injuries, old, young, mothers, there's quite a few visitors. I think
I'm going to stop it there. It goes on for a few minutes. There's an aspect to audio called, I think it's pronounced prosody. It's the meaning inside the words that you say, so beyond the written text. So the emotion, the reality, the crack in the voice, those kind of things that we're all attuned to pick out. Audio is glorious for doing that kind of stuff. The point for us technically was this was a man with a sat phone recording live from the event as it occurred, so deeply moving. As a consequence of being marginally involved with this from a tech perspective, we could also prove that compassion lasts 72 hours. But I'll come back to that if you want to ask me about that afterwards, but it's an interesting fact. Moving a little bit further in time, do you remember there was a day during the Egyptian revolution where data connections were taken down and mobile networks were taken down, etc.? This isn't a particularly well-known broadcast, but I'll just play a little bit of it for you, because what actually happened, because ipadio begins as a telephony product, you can call somebody up, put them on hold, and then call ipadio and live broadcast the conversation. It's one of the things that a lot of journalists use ipadio for already. So this is a geezer who's in a flat overlooking Tahrir Square, being interviewed by an American from an organisation now defunct, I think, called Arkansas Abroad. I wonder what they do.
Hello, this is Arkansas Abroad, founder and managing editor Daniel Green. As any of you have been following our site recently, you have seen the up-to-the-minute report on what is going on in the situation in Cairo and across Egypt from our newest foreign correspondent, Corey Ellen. Corey is actually here with us right now. Corey, are you there?
I'm here.
All right, and I just want to reiterate to anybody listening, the Mubarak regime has been really outdoing itself in terms of blocking internet access and media sites. So at any point during this podcast, there's a possibility we will lose Corey. So having said that, Corey, I'm just going to keep the questions brief, but you talk as long as you want to. People need to hear this. First off, as an American in Cairo, do you feel safe?
As an American anywhere.
Suffice it to say that call was held for about 30 minutes. There was no breakdown, and it was one of the only ways you could communicate at that moment in time. Now, bring us a little bit further forwards, because I don't want to suggest that we're playing one club golf here, so I'll take you into a little bit of... Glenn, you're going to hate the quality of the video I'm going to show in a minute. But at present, we've got a friend of mine who's literally halfway up Everest at the moment, having... just completed a glorious back-to-back walk to the North and South Poles, the first man in the world to do that. He's from the same town as me in the Midlands, from Coventry. And Mark's doing regular audio updates again from a satellite phone, which I won't play for you, but you could hear his latest broadcast from Kathmandu. Now, he's about, when he recorded this video, he's about 5,000 feet up in Nepal, and I'll play this little video for you. We also, as we've evolved with time, we've moved into the world of apps, so you've got data connectivity as well. Obviously, as you move up the spectrum of connectivity, you can do things like podcasting, so we have both Android and iOS, because we love all operating systems the same, although Android's slightly more advanced. Allowing people to record podcasts and do bits of in-app editing and what have you as well to increase the quality, but you end up with larger file sizes, and so you need at least a 3G connection to do that. Video takes you a little bit further up that spectrum, so Mark's got a beta test app of ours, and this was a little recording he did, wobbly, from Nepal. So this came in from his telephone shortly after he recorded this.
So heading now down into a village, just between these mountain ranges here. So it's a lovely day today, really lovely day. We're heading down this trail, and it's typical of this area. Nice wide.
I'm going to stop because I can't stand Glenn taking the piss out of the quality of the video. But suffice it to say, there's a man with a simple tool, not any of this, obviously, which I should buy him when he comes back. He's then able to record a little piece of video, and depending on his connection, that then gets sent up very quickly, and then can cross-post all over the place. Now, the reason that we fell into this is because 6 months later, we were allowed to say we're an official supplier to the Olympic Games. So, top news. About a month ago, we were told to do it. And the project that we did was enabling Paralympians, or were they been Paralympians beforehand? If they win, I think. Anyway, people at the Paralympics, athletes, to record little video vignettes and upload them during the Paralympics last year. We had about 700 athletes, including several blind athletes as well, which is interesting. Mostly forward-facing camera for blind people. They're absolutely rubbish at panoramas, generally speaking. It has to be. I can say that because I'm posh. Sighted in one eye as well. But anyway, so the concept was for them to collect a piece of video, to upload it to a moderation area so it could be previewed and then published to sundry social media platforms, YouTube, Facebook, and what have you. This is a Brazilian sprinter, I think, who was one of the early users. We had 700 videos uploaded, about 1 million views. It was deemed to be hugely successful, and the first time that anyone had allowed athletes to do behind-the-scenes user-generated content at any Olympic Games. So it was an interesting proving ground for us. The thing that we're launching today that's free is an app both on iOS and Android, although Android's a little bit more advanced, that allows people to do both phone casting, podcasting, video casting, and then share that across sundry social media platforms. The icons in the middle correspond to a sat phone at the bottom, a tablet, a PC, because you can upload audio, a telephone and a mobile phone. Our commitment, and the reason we do this, we make most of our money in corporate comms, is people like you are harsh critics indeed. So we take the advice you give us about our technology and improve it as best we can. iPadio's probably got about 200 different features, I should think. I reckon about half of those came from users telling us how our technology could be used better to help them share stuff with their world. And that's what we've got. Phone interviews, podcasts, extreme reporting, and quite a lot of extreme reporting, videos, and it'll work. I put the word phablet in there. Sorry. And what we're trying to do is make it easier to share content. Probably the most interesting project we're working on at all at the moment is publishing direct from that to television, because the quality that comes out of that phone is fantastic. But I love all phones equally. Thank you.
Does anybody have a quick question for Mark before we have to move on?
The last slide on very quickly, please.
God, wait, what? This one? That one? Yeah. Or that one? That one.
Okay, we have a question over there. I'll do that. I'll get set up, Mark, in the meantime.
Hi, just a quick question. It's been a long time since I've heard audio, like phone audio like that, used on the radio now, because we accept that we can get much better quality normally. I was just interested, if somebody calls up and then you put it onto ipadio and then it streams over the internet, do you put some extra processing in that lessens the quality further than if they just called into a radio station directly?
Oh, no, not at all. We take the quality of the audio and we do our best to improve it. I mean, in answer to your question, of course, phone quality audio is phone quality audio. There isn't much choice at the top of Everest. So, you know, sat phone quality is sat phone quality. So sometimes the message is more important than the quality of the medium, particularly in the case with the Oxfam stuff, actually, because that 72-hour window of compassion actually means that people that get the message out first improve the amount of money that people give. So the quality is an irrelevance, really. For that
and it's not being compressed at all?
No,
going
quite the
via
reverse.
the web.
We try to improve it on the way through.
Okay.
Just to go with that one, if you were doing a live streaming event that you were doing audio principally, is there anything you'd suggest to improve the quality of the audio before it goes out of the room? I mean,
yes, you make a direct SIP
plug it into
connection
something.
between. You make a direct SIP connection between. If you've got data connection, then a SIP connection to our switch, and you get about 5-6 times the audio quality, but without the still using phone call cost.
Okay, I'm at the phone end of this stuff, and I don't understand any other of the bits you said then. Sorry. So if I was running an event like this and I wanted to broadcast it, stream it out,
yes,
would I plug it into the desk or something like that? That would be the best thing to do. Okay.
Does anyone here use EE as their phone? And when you ring another EE person, you get extraordinary high audio quality occasionally. Have you noticed that? That's because they're using a different kind of protocol to improve the audio quality. Audio quality is actually diminished over the years quite substantially on a phone. You listen to the phone report of John Lennon's assassination in the States. The audio quality then is better than it is now on a phone. But there are ways of improving it.
Excellent. If we've got any time at the end, we will come back to questions for all of them, but we're going to move swiftly on with Mark Boas, who is not, he doesn't work for Mozilla, he's not from Mozilla, but he was one of the Mozilla Open News Fellows last year. So last year he was sponsored by the Mozilla Foundation and Knight-Mozilla to go and spend a year in a newsroom, and he spent the year in Al Jazeera's newsroom, or rather working for them at arm's length.
I did get to Doha now and again, yes. I wasn't completely embedded. I was working remotely, and so.
From Italy, you live in Italy.
That's right.
So he's come over from Italy for the event. But he's going to show us how to use Mozilla's popcorn maker, which is, I will let Mark introduce it to you.
Okay.
I will also check that we can get it open. The ultimate test is, will it run on Internet Explorer?
Yes.
Being a Mozilla product.
I'm doing something you really probably shouldn't do, which is to run a Mozilla product on Internet Explorer on Windows. So I think this is an experiment that we can all witness, and hopefully it will work. But in case it doesn't work, what I want you to take away from this is this URL, which is popcorn.webmaker.org. And if you remember that and use it at home and try it with your kids, if you've got kids, or with your parents or your grandparents, and just take a look at the tutorial. Now, I'm not going to talk too much. I haven't got much time to explain it, and often it's better to just demo things, which is where I'm a little bit worried, actually, that things might not work out. So maybe I better explain it a little bit. Popcorn Maker is, I hesitate to say a video editing tool, but it's kind of a video editing tool that allows you to bring in aspects of the web. So social, Twitter, things like SoundCloud, so just audio if you like. So it's like a media editing package of the web, which is actually on the web. So it's completely free, and I think it's kind of revolutionary. because what they've done is made something so simple that anybody can use it, which is why I said, you know, get your kids involved. And what Mozilla really want to do is to try and promote people not only to make things themselves, so make everyone a kind of journalist, or what they call a web maker, but also to kind of get into the next generation this idea of media and media literacy. So, without further ado, I'm going to try this. I'm really, I wish I'd have got here a little bit earlier and got everything set up perfectly. But I might have this. So if you open this at home, what I recommend you do is straight away start this tutorial. And the good thing about this tutorial is it takes you through what you need to do just to get started, but it's also really well presented. So let's see if it works first.
Popcorn Maker lets you enhance video and audio you find on the web by layering in your favorite web services and then sharing these remixes with the world. The first thing you'll notice in the Popcorn Maker interface is the video itself. Look at me. Now imagine this video is something you've imported from the web. Videos of the news, your favorite performers, your favorite show, or just your favorite cat. The most important feature of Popcorn Maker is the event editor. By dragging one of these events either onto the video or onto the timeline, you'll create a new event. Here's what an event for a piece of text looks like on the timeline. Imagine we're creating a newscast. Here's a pop-up. Here's an image. Here's a Wikipedia article about Africa. Here's a map of Africa. Get it? The position of the event on the timeline indicates when it will appear in the video area. You can drag these events anywhere on the video, as well as resize them to fit your composition. I want you to try this now. I've put a pause event on the timeline that will stop this tutorial. While it's paused, drag an event onto the timeline, and when you're done, press play to continue.
Okay, so that was a good introduction, I think. I'm sorry you can't quite see the whole screen. I guess I'm used to using this on a slightly bigger resolution, but I think I can minimize this, but I'm worried if I minimize it, I won't know how to maximize it again. So I'm just going to... The good thing about all of this is that I'm actually very new to this bit of software, and when I'm a developer by trade, so I use other parts of Popcorn, which is central to this bit of software, which is a JavaScript library for those who kind of use the web. So I hadn't used this for a while, and I came back to it, and I just found it incredibly simple. But the downside of it is that I haven't got that much experience of the thing that I'm talking about. So that's good and bad. So it's telling me to drag an event over there. So I guess what we can do is take Twitter and add this event somewhere over here. And you can kind of fine-tune this and stretch out the time. So it's very similar to, if many of you used sort of video editing software, it's very similar. Everyone will be kind of familiar with this kind of paradigm. And every event, whether it be a map or, in this case, Twitter, has different parameters that you can search for. So here we've got kittens, which is a classic thing for people like Mozilla to use as an example. But the hashtag for News Rewired, for example, would be, I think, and I can choose a couple of things. So I can choose, for example, whether to fade in, the tweet layout, and so on. So what I'm going to do is change the tweet layout to ticker, and I think that's okay. So I'm just going to play and see what happens, so bear with me here.
Size of text, the Twitter hashtag to search for, the alignment of the Twitter widget, the image you're searching for, etc. Options which you set through its editor.
I think, hold on.
Try editing this event I've placed on the timeline. Just click on the event.
I think what happened there is it's actually gone off the screen, so I'll just change that to feed. Fingers crossed.
Twitter hashtag to search for, the alignment of the Twitter. Edit. Now I want you to edit the values of your events. You can change the size of text, the Twitter hashtag to search for, the alignment of the Twitter widget, the image you're searching for, etc. Each event has its own set of options, which you set through its editor.
Okay.
Try editing this event I've placed on the timeline.
So that may or may not have worked. I don't know if anyone spotted that issue. But let's try another one quickly. Back to events. Let's try a Google map. So we've got a map here. And the address of this place is Cardinal Place. SW1, did we say? London. Okay, and we can choose a zoom level. We can even choose the map type. So a great one is Street View, just to really see. So we're somewhere along there, I guess. So let's just see if this works.
You did it.
Huh.
Now I want you to edit the values of your events. You can change the size of text, the Twitter hashtag to search for, the alignment of the Twitter widget, the image you're searching for, etc. Each event has its own set of options.
So you can see that at least that worked, and maybe it's because I put that on the top timeline, so perhaps if I'd put that later or earlier, that may have worked. It's crazy doing things live. But
here's a map of Africa. Get it? The position of the event on the timeline indicates when it will appear in the video area. You can drag these events anywhere on the video, as well as resize them to fit your composition. I want you to try this now. I've put a pause event on the timeline.
So you can see that quite easily, well, fairly easily, you can get things working and not only integrate social stuff, but also maps that Google provide and all sorts of things to just create something a little bit more interactive. And I found myself yesterday playing with this quite significantly, adding soundtracks, fading videos in, muting the volume of a video and playing a soundtrack over it. And all these things are possible. It just takes a little bit of patience, but actually not that much. So let's just go on and see what else it says.
Put a hashtag to search for, the alignment of the Twitter widget, the image you're searching for, etc. Each event has its own set of options, which you set through its editor. Try editing this event I've placed on the timeline. Just click on the event and edit settings off to the right. And when you're done, press play to continue.
So I click on it, and then in theory, I can edit the event. Yeah, that's working well. Okay, let's carry on watching.
Great. When it comes time to share your work, it's important to log in. We use Persona, Mozilla's privacy-respecting identity service. You'll need to register an account, and then you'll simply use your email address to log into Popcorn Maker. Clicking the Save button will create a URL in the Share editor that others can visit to view your creation.
So this is the great thing about Popcorn Maker. Whatever you make with it can then instantly be shared with other people. So you can just post a URL into an email or on any social media, and somebody will instantly be able to see what you've made. But not only can they see what you've made, they can also remix what you've made. So what we're doing here is kind of promoting a remix culture where people can take stuff that has been remixed by somebody and remix it themselves and build upon the work of others. And this has a tremendous potential to actually get people into media, because they can take something that they like and say, I just want to tweak that a little bit and make my own version of it. And I think that's incredibly powerful. I don't know if any of you have watched a series of programs called Everything is a Remix, or there's other stuff, the Remix Manifesto, and it talks very much about this principle, and it's something that we really want to get ingrained in a new up-and-coming sort of culture. So I'll just finish off the tutorial.
Live inside Custom Player. Cool thing to note is the Remix button. Anything created with Popcorn Maker can be remixed by anyone else, leading to infinite creative possibilities. Your creations can also live inside your favorite websites and blogs. Just use the embed code here and drop it into your favorite blogging platform, and you can spread your work far and wide. Each Popcorn project has a media file that controls the action. Let's end this tutorial with you changing the media file itself. Just paste your favorite YouTube, Vimeo, SoundCloud, or HTML5 media file into the media source field. Once you've done that, your media will now control the action, and you can remix this tutorial to learn the basics. So, pop some corn, and don't forget to share your work.
So that's really the end of the demo, but what they were saying there at the end, one important part of it is the media. So you can see here you've got YouTube, Vimeo, SoundCloud, and just HTML5, which just means web URLs, basically, which is the address you put in your browser. So, for example, I could go to Bing or just go to YouTube and choose something like kittens, but let's do YouTube News Rewired. Find a video that I liked, take the URL, I haven't actually watched this yet. Is this an official? On YouTube, yeah? Yeah, maybe. Don't you love doing things live? You never know what's going to come up on YouTube, that's the problem. So this looks like something official, right?
There was a conversation I had with a guy called Nick Newman, who at the time...
Okay, so I would go back to Popcorn Maker. So this is really teaching people to use the content that's already out there on the web. Of course, you can upload your own content, you can upload it to YouTube, you can upload it to your own website. I'm using Apple commands. No. I don't even know where the reload button is on. Hold on a sec. I've got a plan.
There was a conversation I had with a guy called Nick Newman, who at the time was head of future media and...
Okay, last try. I don't know where the URL went. Does anyone know?
So I suppose what I've learnt myself
there it is.
Is that, yes, social media is an incredibly powerful new tool.
So, keep calm, carry on, as I say. There we go. And then I create clip, pop this open. And there we have the clip. I can then kind of drag that on and adjust different parts of it. But the point is that I could now, you know...
Your source field. Once you've done that, your media will now control the action.
So I suppose what I've learnt myself...
So, pop some corn, and don't forget to share your work.
Okay. So, that's really it. I'm open for questions. Thanks very much.